Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to another edition of our Locker Room show via Green Room. Green Room. It's not Locker Room anymore, but it's Sunday. It's 9 a.m. My video is a little thin today. I wonder if I can fix that while we're talking. It generally changes for some weird reason over on the Wirecast app, but if I do that and I hit that, then maybe that'll fix it. So what's happening, everybody? How are you guys doing on a Sunday morning? Happy 4th of July. As always, if you want to chop it up, you can request to speak on the Green Room app. Download that, come on in, and we're going to simulcast this. I think I got it figured out a little bit better on the, I got a little Bluetooth speaker here. It's going to be able to send all the people talking on the Green Room app into the YouTube side, so you can hear it better than me holding the phone up to the app. But either way, let's bring in, we got people who want to talk already, so let's see how this works. Let's bring in Jimmy and see how that sounds. Jimmy, are you there? Oh, boy.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but while we're talking, I'm going to see if I can't force it to go to my Bluetooth speaker again because it doesn't want to. Oh, that's interesting. The Bluetooth speaker has disappeared from AirPlay. Okay, that's good to know. Anyway, what's happening, my man?
Man, I woke up this morning and I can't believe this is real, man. I was in the Deer District last night in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And it was unreal. I've never experienced anything in sports like that.
Really? So everyone was out in the streets celebrating?
Until like well after bar close. In Milwaukee, that's like 2:30 in the morning. Like I got to bed at like 3:30 or something. And
wow.
It was amazing.
Well, you know, I went to Wisconsin in Madison, so I'm a little bit familiar with what that goes on in that state, and I can only imagine. What's that?
Yeah, I was gonna say Madison's a beautiful town.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, just seeing like guys in their like 50s and 60s who are like crying and hugging, like it was just incredible, dude. It was so cool.
Well, let's not forget the last time they were in the finals was, I want to say, 1974. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last time they won was 71, 50 years ago.
All right, so they won in 71. Did they lose the finals later on? Was that what I'm thinking?
Yeah, they lost in 74 in 7 games to the Celtics.
Oh, yeah, that's probably like Dave Cowens. I got to go back and look at those games. Those are fun. Wow. Yeah. So what are your thoughts so far on the finals and what's going to happen?
I mean, everybody here since Giannis got hurt has been talking about like, is Giannis coming back? When is he coming back? I'm under the belief that they kind of got to hold him as long as they can to make sure that he gets as healthy as possible. But I think what I'm really proud of is how like the Bucks team, you know, when you get a superstar, sometimes the team tends to stand around and wait for them to do something, and the Bucks are no different. Sometimes they will just kind of let Giannis try and do things, and without him on there, I mean, Game 6 was the best example, but I mean, even Game 7, it was great to see, like, you know, all these different guys kind of stepping up. I mean, Jeff Teague had 3 3-pointers last night. It was
that's when you knew you knew something was up. But Jeff Teague was raining down threes from behind the line like that. I was actually amazed that he was getting time even before last night's game, earlier in the games, to show you where they were on their rotations. You know, so. You know, and the Bucks, you know, it's too bad. I mean, the Hawks, you know, kind of went out with a whimper, I guess. You know, it was interesting to me because Trae Young, the actual injury that he sustained stepping on the ref's foot it wasn't that impressive to me as far as like a severe looking injury. But man, he must have already hurt that before because I don't know. He clearly looked something was off, right? Like and once he was off. You know, it didn't seem to matter. There's just too much firepower in the Bucks anyway, defensively. I think that's the other thing people forgot was that the Hawks are not a good defensive team, right? No. They were 18th, I think, in the regular season. They're not good on that end, really. So it's not surprising that, you know, a team that still has, you know, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday and then Brook Lopez can you know, score and a lot of points. And I, by the way, I called it on Twitter. I don't know if anyone saw it. The first bucket of the second half that Middleton hit, I was like, and now Middleton's the guy that's going to end the game here. And boy, That was an impressive run, I have to tell you. I don't even know, what did it finish out at? Like 23 points in the third quarter?
He had 23 in the third quarter alone. I mean, and that's what Middleton's always been, right? He's always kind of been like a guy who's gone on streaks. And sometimes he will go on extended lines where he's not shooting well at all. And most of the playoffs, he has not shot well at all, but he's kind of done all the little things on the side. I've never seen such a great passer who makes so many like boneheaded passes, but he also tends to always have these like just dumb passes that you're like, I can't even believe this guy's an all-star. But the shooting came around, you know. The third quarter is just when he gets locked in, he's like any great shooter. If you get a couple shots and they fall, you've made your mark, and now you know where you need to shoot. And then he was just off to the races. I mean, the Bucks aren't in the finals if Middleton doesn't play the way he does last night, and even in like Game 3 down in Atlanta when he just took over in the fourth quarter.
I mean, listen, by the way, the Bucks aren't where they are without him, even when they have Giannis healthy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you need him anyway. Like, he's been the linchpin. And I've been talking about him for years now, how he's like the go-to guy for pick and roll. You know, he ends up playing like the star role in their offense a lot more than Giannis does. And that's sort of a function of Giannis's inability to shoot consistently from deep and not wanting to shoot any mid-range shots. So, it's a lucky thing that not lucky. It was a great development. They got him, and he developed into this guy. But he is as vital as Giannis is. And you know what? Like, they could probably be competitive without Giannis. I don't think they're gonna beat the Suns if Giannis can't play. All I can tell you is that it's a miracle that Giannis didn't tear multiple ligaments in with that injury. It was also strange to me that he's standing. You saw him standing up a lot in that game on that knee. I can only imagine it must hurt when it's bent, right? And when you're sitting and it's bent 90 degrees, that must be where it aches more than when he's standing. I have to imagine.
It's gotta be so, but even if he had like a hurt elbow or something, he would have been standing the entire game. There's just nothing you could do to like. Giannis is full tilt everything.
For sure.
Before Game 5 in Milwaukee, PJ Tucker had gone to a bar, and the bartender had said that PJ told him that if the Bucks had gone to Game 7 in the East Finals, that Giannis would have played. So you're going to take that with a huge grain of salt. I mean, a bartender saying something,
right?
But the guy also has a picture of him with PJ from that day,
right?
So maybe it's legit. Maybe Giannis will come back as long as somebody. You know, somebody gives him the go ahead. You know, if the trainers will be like, okay, you know, maybe a bit. And I don't know, even if he does come back, you know, maybe you use him more as like a decoy, or just maybe he's just not superhuman anymore in the game. Maybe he's just another guy who can do a little bit, and then you just keep doing that, you know, win by committee kind of thing,
right?
Like they did in Game 6.
I would think that, you know, remember, like James Harden came back with half a hamstring and ended up being a little bit effectual. Like he was making some shots by the last game. This is wholly different, and and without his ability that you're describing, what is Giannis, right? That is his game. Is that he's got, you know, the long strides and finishing above the rim and all those things. I would be wary, and especially because this is a long-term career of his that you don't want to jeopardize. And if that knee is even structurally unsound a little bit, then you can't risk his career for that. But I suppose they're not going to put him in a situation where that could happen. He'll probably have some sort of knee brace or something on it that would help. So yeah, listen. All I can hope for is that he does play, because otherwise, the whole playoffs is just tainted with the big asterisk at this point. You know, everyone has been injured so much. And by the way, that's the reason why the Suns are here, is because they're the ones who were injured the least.
Yeah,
you know.
When you think about it, even the Bucks, you know, Dante DiVincenzo's was a fairly big loss to the Bucks, but I mean, nobody else is going to look at that as a big loss. Even though he would have been the guy in the second round guarding one of the better guards. Oh,
and he also explains how Jeff T gets any minutes, right? Like, you know,
right, exactly.
Yeah, so for sure. And then, you know, and the Chris Paul neck injury was something, but like, I mean, listen, I think we could sort of, you know, acknowledge that the only reason why the Suns beat the Lakers in my mind was because AD goes down. And I know people want to give me a double standard and scream at me from the Suns' perspective, because how can you say that, like, you know, you give him a pass for AD but not for CP3? And I'm like, well, all I felt like watching that was, you know, if CP3 is healthy and AD is healthy, the Lakers still win. That's what it felt like to me. And they were in control through Game 4, up 2-1 until AD goes down. If they go up 3-1, I can't picture the Suns winning that series, even with Chris Paul healthy. So that was what I'm kind of getting at. But even still, it's just the whole thing sucks. And the fact that everyone's gone down like this has just been, and for whatever reason, I'm not even sure. Obviously, the Giannis injury is not because they started up the season so quickly and he didn't have a lot of rest in the offseason. But you know, I don't know. This is a crazy season. I'm looking forward to getting back on the regular schedule where we can start, you know, at the end of October again.
Yeah, and there's one thing I'll say, and then I'll let somebody else jump in and hop out. But what I wanted to say really on that end is that, you know, the playoffs are always a war of attrition. It's just that this season is just so much more. And maybe LeBron's right. Maybe it's because there was the short whatever. I mean, a couple of these. You know, Trae Young got hurt by a freak injury. You know, Kyrie got hurt by a freak injury. That wasn't the long season that got them down. But really, what I really want to say is that, you know, we all want to have those playoffs where everybody's healthy, but it's not 2K. You know, injuries are part of the game.
Yeah, you're right.
It's always part of the game, and the Suns and the Bucks are, for better or worse, the last two teams standing because they were the ones who were the most, you know, the best teams that were the most healthy over the course of the playoffs. So, I mean, it's just kind of that, you know, last man standing kind of scenario. So,
absolutely.
Hey, I wanted to thank you for letting me hop in, and you know, take care, everybody.
You got it. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And anybody else who wants to hop in here, come on in, join us through the Locker Room app, Green Room. I got to get used to saying that. And then you can join the show and beam me right out to the YouTube side as well. I'm trying to figure out if I can get this AirPlay thing to work, but I suppose the Green Room app suddenly eliminates using any other speakers besides my phone, which is an interesting, weird thing, right? You would think, you know, I could blast it out to my my Bluetooth speaker when I'm listening to a Green Room show, but not when I'm hosting the show, I guess. It's very strange. Anyway, we got another request. We have Jeff wants to come on here, so let's bring him in here. Jeff, what's happening, my man? I hope I'm saying your name right.
Yeah, I'm just wanted to know what chance do you give the Bucks to take a game off of Phoenix in these first two without Giannis? Because I think they stumbled onto a formula that kind of works for them. I think that Middleton and Holiday can be a pretty disruptive defensive backcourt given their size and their strength, and that can bother CP3 historically. So maybe that can work to their advantage, just flowing through them on both ends.
Yeah, interesting question. So let's go through it. Let's look at the Bucks and how they match up with the Suns individually, and we can talk it through because I am kind of curious. So obviously, Drew Holiday on CP3 is going to be an awesome matchup because Drew is a really good defender, and CP3 is CP3, right? So that's going to be an interesting battle for the Bucks and how they defend that. But I certainly don't think it's going to go like Chris Paul's not going to score 40 points in the fourth quarter, whatever he did the other day. Now you have to talk about let's see who Middleton guards. So Middleton's going to. By the way, he can guard then Booker. I like that because Booker I think would struggle with a bigger, longer defender on him. He doesn't really beat guys off the dribble that much and doesn't elevate like that high. So I would think that could stymie them as well. You know what? Did you just talk me into the Bucks winning the series? Uh-oh, did you go away?
No, I'm still here.
So I think you might have just talked me into the Bucks winning the series, having thought for sure that it would have been the Suns winning. But you know what? And then and Brook Lopez can guard. Well, okay. How do you think Brook Lopez is going to do? Yeah, how is he going to do against Ayton? How do you think?
I think Brook's going to have his hands full, honestly, because Ayton doesn't stop. So, you know, I don't know if have they really played a center as good as him all playoffs?
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
So
I think go ahead.
Yeah, they didn't play Philly, so I mean, Capella's like 60% of Ayton. You similar game, roll man, but Ayton's just a different animal. So
yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
Absolutely. Well, good call on that one. And then I'm trying to think of any other matchups we can kind of go through here. I don't know if they have to really worry about guarding Bridges with anyone special at that point. And who else is a threat on the Suns for them? I guess you're going to think about coming off the bench. They're going to bring in guys like Campaign and then Cam Johnson, the two Cams. Those guys also will be key, as they always tend to be, right? When you're talking about the finals, it's always some other guy that we're not quite prepared for is going to have an impact on a game or two. Here's the thing. I think it's going to be a good series.
Because I think the fact that since they've been in so many battles together as a squad, I think that's going to help them. I think that's something that they can lean on. The fact that Middleton is just okay, I'm used to carrying the load. Holiday's new, but he's proven. Portis gave them ridiculous production without Giannis. He could be an X factor for them too.
Yeah, absolutely. Portis, you're right. There's a lot of interesting storylines here, and we'll have to kind of see how it plays out. Also, the storyline is that nobody has any finals experience. Nobody does, right? Nobody on these teams.
Right.
Yeah. So that's another interesting thing that will definitely affect. I have a feeling Game 1 could be ugly for that matter. Like they're going to be nervous. They don't know exactly what they're going to how to approach this.
I see a lot of nerves. It could be a sloppier game to start, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyway, don't forget, if you're on the YouTube side, come on over to Green Room, download it, follow me at B-Ball Breakdown, jump in the show. I believe that the link I put in the description is the link for this one, but you know what? I probably should just make sure by hitting the share button on here, and then I could probably update that in the description. Here, where do I do that? I'm going to try this and see while we're live if this works. Here's my favorite part, is when you copy something on your phone and then you hit paste on your computer, and it works. It's amazing. So I'm gonna say this again. So you might have to refresh or something, but I'm gonna change the thing here with a new link in case you want to join directly, because I want to hear from you guys. So see if you can refresh or swipe down a little bit, and you'll get the new link in the description to join this directly as you sign up for Green Room. But I'd love to have you in here and talk. We'll go through some comments as well. Anybody who wants to get me on the YouTube side right away, obviously the Super Chat's the best way to do it to catch my eye easily. But I'm going to go through some of the Green Room comments too, because I like to give them a little bit some love here on there. So, Coach Nick Basketball, a good friend of the Breakdown. Coach, which players does Cam Reddish remind you of? Oh, that's interesting. So and then I see somebody over on the YouTube side saying, "How do I join the live?" Well, if you download the Green Room app, create an account, look for B-Ball Breakdown, you should see it. And by the way, if you're on the home page, it should just tell you live in the NBA. I'm in the NBA group. It should just show you what rooms are live, and you can just be able to hit join room and jump in. People have done that, I believe, in the past. If anybody on the Green Room app came over from YouTube, let me know and let me know that's working. And give me a chat in the Green Room chat if you can. So let's get back to the question, which was Cam Reddish remind me of. So before the season started, I have a DM. I have receipts. I thought that he was going to be the biggest, X factor for a team. I thought he was going to have a great year. He had been primed. He's got a good skill set, good body, a good size. It turned out that it ended up being DeAndre Hunter who kind of grabbed that role a lot better, and I was going to kind of do a video on him, and then stuff happened during the season. But I do have the receipts where I was like, Cam Reddish is going to be the guy, and everyone better be on board with him. And then he just didn't work out that well in the beginning of the year for him. So here we are. I think we're seeing a lot of what I had thought about before. So who does he remind me of? Oh my goodness gracious! I mean, who is a really athletic, solid, good defender? He can shoot the three. He's developing. Gosh, I don't know who he reminds me of. Who would that be? I'm looking for anybody else. Paul George. Oh yeah, Paul George is probably a good call on that one, and he might be already ahead of the curve on where Paul George was at the same age. Let me make sure that Cam Reddish is as young as I think he is. Let's quickly do that. Cam Reddish is 21. Well, you know what? We just saw for a brief moment the flash that I was talking about for Cam Reddish. So we have to kind of see it in the next year. But he's probably on that similar trajectory then as far as as that goes for Paul George. So that's probably a good call. I like that. Now, I think Paul George might have been a better defender even at 21, but we just need to see a little bit more from him. We had 58 games his rookie year where he averaged 10.5 points a game, and he shot 33% from three. And then the next year, he averaged a little bit more points, but he played a couple more minutes, and that was the difference there. But he didn't really sort of show it. So going into next year, I'm looking really forward to what Cam Reddish can do. I think he's going to be great. Now, what you really have to ask yourself is, what does that mean for the Atlanta Hawks? If they bring everybody back, and I'm assuming everyone's under contract again for one more year, because I don't think John Collins is a free agent, or is he? Someone tell me. That's a terrific team. Now, John Collins has a lot of developing he needs to do, without question. He's got so much promise. He could be an all-star easily, but he's got to really clean up his short rolls. I feel like that was when he started getting too fast. He'd lose the ball, make some poor decisions. And if he can clean that up, and that's not hard to do, he already has proven he can shoot at a three-pointer at an elite level at a catch-and-shoot style. And he's posted up and done nicely, but he's got to also polish that up. Once he starts to do that stuff, then, yeah, I'm talking about all-star for him. And then you got Trae Young, who has proved himself, I believe. You have DeAndre Hunter, who was playing really well in the playoffs, I thought, was aggressive, was scoring, doing really well. So all those things are important. Then you throw in Cam Reddish, Cam Johnson out of nowhere. It really showed it that he's a bona fide, NBA player. That's a really good team, and they're gonna challenge guys in the East without question. We have some more people coming in the show, so welcome everybody. We have two Nicks. What's happening, guys?
Hey, yeah.
I want to talk about obviously the Hawks roster. I think the three free agents are Lou Williams, Solomon Hill, and then restricted is John Collins, I believe.
Wait, okay. So say it again. Lou Williams is unrestricted.
Yeah, unrestricted. So is Solomon Hill.
Oh, okay, that's no problem. they don't need them, especially if DeAndre Hunter is going to be healthy. Solomon Hill, listen, he's a great teammate. He works really hard, but if you got to play him major minutes early in a playoff game, then you're probably behind the eight ball right off the bat. Okay, and then so what's John Collins' status? What did you say?
I think he's restricted.
Okay. I'm going to turn that speaker off. Okay, good. So they can match that. And that's probably what they should do then and keep him. I like the fact that he fits in well. I think they ironed out his issues with him and Trae Young. Obviously had a blow up in the middle of the year. I think that looked like it got ironed out by the end of the season. So that was important just to go through that fire together and forge a better relationship. So I think I think they're really going somewhere. Now, Nate McMillan also was quoted as saying that in the past he would have detonated on these guys and been really, really negative, and he realized. And the only problem I have is that he tried to, I think, shade it where it was like today's kind of player that doesn't work. I would argue it probably didn't work really back then either. I mean, you could get results, but it wasn't because you were being so negative and screaming and yelling at these players. And so I was really heartened to see that, because I thought for sure him taking over was kind of a shrug, like, okay, another one of these ex-players from my era that's going to coach the same way they've been coaching for 20 years. So it was really, really gratifying to hear him acknowledge that and make a concerted effort to change the style. And I think I think the fact they got to the Eastern Conference Finals is a result of that change. So the negative version I don't think drives anybody to get beyond where they could play anyway. But when you can change the method of communication and try and build them up more, you get a team like the Hawks shocking people and getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. There's a lot of reasons for that, obviously, but I think that's one of the big contributing factors. So it's great to see. Let's talk to Nick on the other side here. What's happening? It's been a long, long time since I've heard from you.
Yeah. Hey, Coach. How are you?
I'm good. How are you feeling?
Yeah, good. Health-wise, I'm being a lot better. Long story, but yeah, we can get into that later.
No worries.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just wondering, the Suns, they have two great mid-range shooters like Devin Booker and Chris Paul, right? How is Milwaukee defending against that compared to, Trae's floater? They made an adjustment to that, but are they good at defending mid-range shots or?
No. the Bucks want to give up as many mid-range shots as possible. So that's a really great call as far as their base defense kind of plays right into the hands of the Suns. Okay, so now you talk me back into the Suns winning the series. Now here's what we did see, which is exciting. They actually adjusted, and they had Brook Lopez, of all people, coming up higher before he starts doing his duck waddle backwards to contain Trae Young, which would then indicate that there is a notion that he could kind of limit the mid-range a little bit better on that end. But they're not going to shoot the floaters as much as the pull-up jump shots from 15. And I still feel like that's going to be a viable shot for them going forward. They're going to get a lot of those. I'm going to do a video. I might try and sneak it in tomorrow before the final start of how crucial those mid-range shots were throughout the entire playoffs this year. Just in my mind's eye, I can picture so many clutch shots hit in the mid-range where everyone's like, we don't want to take those, they're not good, but in turn, and then they end up being game-deciding shots over and over and over again. So that could be the argument for bringing it back. And there's no question, if you're looking for the top guys to shoot those, it's Booker and it's Chris Paul. It's a great call.
Yeah, no, it'll be really interesting. And for people trying to get into Green Room, just look up NBA, and then your chat's, I think, the first room that you can join. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's how it better be. And don't forget, if you're in the green room with me, just request a chat. I bring everybody in all at the same time, and everyone seems to share, and we don't talk over each other. It's great. But yeah, that's a really good call. I think this is going to be a really confusing series to try and predict, Nick, and to figure out whether we can, who's going to win the battles. And it might be a seesaw thing. It could go 7 games. One of my fears, though, is the Bucks Suns series. Like, how many people are going to watch, right? Is this going to captivate enough people and make this a series, or like that has a good ratings or not? Will my videos get watched on these breakdowns? I really wonder, and I wonder what you guys think too.
I reckon people will, because you don't have super teams. You have different sort of people playing, but they are small markets, so you never know, eh?
Yeah, and from my perspective, knowing what small market teams are like online and how vociferous they are and how much they watch, the Bucks are pretty good. The Suns are a little bit not so good, at least in my perspective. So we'll see. Compared to like the Lakers or the Celtics or even the Knicks or the Bulls. So it's an interesting call. Hang on for 1 second, everybody. I'm going to turn my air conditioning off so it doesn't. It's not so loud in the background. I get some clean sound. All right, let's do that. And I'll just sweat with everybody for a little while because it's hot in here in LA. All right. Well, listen. We have. It looks like Adam Dwyer is now in here. Adam, you're the guy that was trying to get in last time. They couldn't, right?
Yeah, I was having trouble last time, but I figured it out.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
I appreciate you, helping, trying to get me in. I wanted to go back to the Hawks for a minute and ask if you think that they, with their playoff run, could be in contention to get another, a better upgrade at guard, say like Kyle Lowry or Goran Dragic. I know they're both free agents this year. Possibly even get Dennis Schroeder back, but he's asking for a lot of money. I don't know what their cap situation is.
Well, all right. So because you're not happy with Bogdanovich and Herter?
No, I mean, I am. I'm just talking off the bench, like taking Lou spot.
All right. Okay. Because then, then they got Cam Payne, who's also off the bench. He's a point guard, not necessarily a shooting guard, but I don't know. I kind of like that 4-guard rotation. I'm not sure they need to really do too much more with that. To me, it was more like the small forward and like get Cam Reddish, get DeAndre Hunter back in the rotation healthy. I'm not so sure they have to do much else. Like maybe they need a backup center. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they could use another rim runner.
Yeah.
Or
so
even maybe Fraser.
Now the only other question then is just like if they want to like deal John Collins because they don't want to end up paying him whatever or something like that, then that opens up some stuff there. But it still feels like to me it's more the front court. I like that backcourt of. Let me make sure I'm not missing any because by the way Cam Reddish is a sort of a guard. He could be a guard even though let's see how tall is he. He's 6'8". Yeah, I mean, but he has some of those skills, and I've seen those before. But if we're talking about Atlanta, let me just see. I like the Bogdanovich thing. He clearly was hurt, so I like the 4-guard rotation of Young, Herter, Bogdanovich, and Payne. Lou Williams, I think he's not viable anymore. He's just gotten to the point where he's 34. He's not the kind of guy who's like be in amazing shape. I mean, he looks like he's in shape, but I don't know if he's like training to the point where he can then increase his ability to movement patterns and stuff like that. Now, but Lou, might hang around for one more year. Remember, they still had Tony Snell, they still had Chris Dunn. If those guys can get back into shape, then they don't need to do anything, right?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So I really like this team. I think Atlanta is really, really tough.
Yeah, I think they're really tough too, and I feel like a lot of people forget Bogdanovich is I think he's 27 or 28 or maybe 26, but he's a little bit older. But I think he's really mentally tough. So I think he is an X factor for them.
Yeah, I mean, tell you when you go through those Euro battles in the Euro, not the Euro League, but when you're playing for your national team, I'm telling you those games harden you, and so the playoffs might not feel that crazy to them at all in the NBA because they've represented their country in those. They get stuff's getting thrown at them. The refs are terrible. Everything's against them, and they can push through and play well on those. So. That's a really important thing as well for those Euro guys to be tested. So they're tougher than a lot of times people think. I'm getting a call from somebody who wants to meet me in 20 minutes. Let me just text him and say I'm in a show. Forgive me for about 10 minutes. All right, then I'm done. How are we looking? Sorry, but let me just do this. And we got some more people who want to come in and chat. Oh, I missed the button. And again, if you're over on the YouTube side, I got another. We started late, but I'm going to probably go for another 15 minutes. So if you want to jump in here, we can. What's happening, everybody? Who wants to jump in here and offer something? I think.
Hey Nick, I was wondering.
Yeah.
I was wondering if Brook Lopez is doing the Doug Waddle, so we probably get him out of there. Say Giannis is healthy, you put him at the 5. How would Phoenix conduct their offense or go about their sets? Because I would assume Milwaukee's switching, and they're not going to be able to. CP3 get to his pull-up, stuff like that.
Wait, why not? You think that Milwaukee's going to switch and not drop?
Well, I'll say Brook Lopez is not in the game, and you have guarding Ayton.
Right. I mean, let's say Brook's out, and I guess it's Portis is in, right? Is that what you said?
Could be Portis or Connaughton.
Okay. So they'll switch that. Yeah, I mean, that's true. And then, you'll still see those ISOs kind of stuff that they'll probably try and do. They'll probably end up going and maybe rolling if Ayton is not in. I guess you're also saying if Ayton's not in as well, right?
Yeah, right.
Right. Okay. So that's interesting. I mean, they have that whole pin down package for Booker as well, where he's coming off of screens. So you'll probably see some of that stuff going on there. You'll probably see some of the high post things they'll do. So that's interesting. I just imagine that Lopez is going to get his 30 minutes, so he's going to be in there a lot, and they're going to target him a lot. So I think it'll be on the margins where we'll see those moments when he's not in there, and they're going to do a different attack. And that's the other thing is, are they going to? How often is it going to match up where they'll have both Chris Paul and Booker in with let's say Lopez out, and they're going a little bit smaller. But I think that's also when you're going to start seeing. Here's what I think. I hope that they get more campaign minutes by himself without Chris Paul. They were playing them together a bit, and I just feel like that kind of limited campaign's ability and effectiveness. To me, when he's playing the Chris Paul role is when he was doing so awesome and made it really hard on everybody and, pretty much won that series for them, I think. So, or certainly, I'm sorry, it certainly gave them the lead. They played better with, I thought, campaign in there than when Chris Paul came back. So that's going to be an interesting thing where they're going to have to hopefully figure that out.
I definitely believe Payne's more effective without Paul, but I like the elbow set where Booker has multiple reads, where he's coming off, and he can do different options off of that. But I'm thinking when Booker's not on the court and say it's just Payne or it's Payne and Paul, how would they get into their sets? Yeah,
well, obviously, remember I'd done the videos with Payne and without Paul, and they were using the Spain pick and roll, which is the high ball screen, and the third player would come and back screen the ball screener's man. Here's the thing. I was studying this to try to figure out why the heck they stopped running it. They basically went from running it 12 or 13 times in game 2 to 3 times at most in the rest of the games. And it turns out when you look at it is Chris Paul doesn't get downhill like Campaign can. And so that doesn't work so well when the threat isn't there. And he's not going to even probe like that either. So they were able to, when they did run it, they got a couple of good shots out of it, but a lot of times it was just easily contained. And now the shot clock's running down. You're going to have to do another inside pick and roll on the wing anyway. So, like, that's why they don't run that. So that's why I was saying, like, you know, get Chris Paul out of the game and let Campaign be the main ball handler for more minutes than they did in the last few games. I honestly think that's going to help. Now, it's sacrilegious to say that because Chris Paul obviously is playing great and you got to have him in. But I think it's a luxury that they have where they can get Chris Paul, let him play like 33 minutes instead of 38, and give a couple more minutes to Campaign, or maybe like 34 minutes instead of 38. Give him 4 more minutes to see if he can get that going, because that's lethal, man. The way that Campaign was doing it, he's so quick and long, you know, going down low, and he's got really long arms. He stretches. I know he got one of those blocked by Lopez on an inside hand finish, but that's what I like to see, and we'll have to find out if Milwaukee can handle that. You know, I'm sorry. You know what? Now I'm saying that. Yeah. Anyway, so we'll see how that works. But that's all good stuff. And that's the thing is there's so many variables here. It's no one can predict anything.
For sure, I definitely see them struggling to get downhill. I see them. Well, I'm assuming Giannis is healthy, of course, and they'll be walling off the paint. So I think it's going to come down to a lot of Cameron Johnson, a lot of Jay Crowder threes. We'll see. Yeah,
absolutely. I have no doubt you're right. There's going to be a different hero on each different night, and we're going to be like, oh, look at that. And that's why I bet you it'll be a little bit hard to figure out who the finals MVP is going to be because of that. So we'll see.
Yep, thanks, Coach.
All right, thanks. All right, who's next? Who else wants to talk? We got some people who've been here for a while.
Hey, Coach.
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, quick question. Not pertaining to the finals.
Okay.
But, 2 players that I was wondering what's going to go on with them this offseason. Kimball Walker and John Wall. Where do you see them ending up at?
Yeah, because I don't think Kemba's going to stay in OKC, right?
Right.
Well, you know, the fear with Kemba is that he put up a lot of good stats on a bad team for a while, and then he got to a good team, and we kind of saw what he was. That may or may not be true, because he definitely, you know, shows he's got a lot of ability. He can play. But what I was more worried about was his knees, which the way his functional movement is such that his knees collapse so much that I was shocked that he didn't get injured like throughout the first 6-7 years of his career. But all of a sudden, the last 2, he's been breaking down. And so that's the biggest worry, is that he's not going to be able to make it through another NBA season healthy. So that's going to be a pause for a lot of teams to deal with and figure out whether they want to take a chance on that, and take a chance on him being like a starter on a team. So, you know, with that said, maybe he can then be good off the bench and be that. Like, he probably would be the best version of himself playing 24 minutes off the bench and being a microwave and awesome against second unit players, and then maybe not wear down his knees so much. So, in that case, who would do that? Who would make that trade? Is it like, I don't know, man. Do you have any ideas?
I could see him in the offense somewhere in Miami, and possibly in Philly, but I'm not sure what's going to go on with Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what Miami's going to do with their. I know Goran's may be gone.
Yeah, so that's not a bad call. Have him replace Goran and come off the bench, and that might be bad. Sorry, that might be a good call.
Yeah.
Could he possibly play the Dennis Schroeder role in Los Angeles?
Yes, I think he could definitely do that. And yeah, so Kemba's definitely the guy who would look really good alongside, I think, LeBron and AD for sure. So that would be a good spot for now. The question is that as a starter, like I'm just worried about his knees. I don't know if he can handle 35 minutes a game, 34 minutes a game as a starter in the league anymore. Just because, I mean, let's look at his numbers the last couple of years. I remember I checked this before. And I don't want to, I'm not casting aspersions. I just you can analyze the way his knees collapse like that. He played 56 games in 1920 and then 43 games last year. After having played like almost every game, for the most of his career, he's been really durable. So, and he's 30. He'll be 31. So I'm just a little bit worried about that, and that's the big risk. Someone's going to have to take a risk if it's a good team to do that. And the question is, what do you have to give up to get him, right? Because he's under contract. They have to trade for him, right? Yeah, they're not going to cut him, I don't think. So they have to trade for him. Obviously, OKC is going to want some sort of pick on that, and probably a young player. So, I mean, I don't know if the Lakers even have that to give up.
Yeah, I don't really think it too much much with the Lakers. I felt like with Vogel, he's gonna want something more defense oriented.
Yeah.
So I didn't foresee Kemba. I mean, I would like to see Kemba there. I'm the biggest LeBron fan, but I don't see how he fits with the way the team is constructed right now. I feel like they'll just have THT bring the ball up on off the bench.
Yeah, I would like to see him continue to develop and get better. And then, you know, I'm not exact. I thought I was sold on him, but then I kind of went back and forth with him. So I'm anxious to see if he's going to be able to develop more, you know, going forward and being even better. Because if that's the case, then they're good. Then there's a Caruso issue, which I think he's a free agent. Isn't that right? Yeah. And like, you know, he does so well for them that it would be a mistake, I think, to let him go. But he might get an offer that they simply won't match, and that might be okay too. But and then we'll see how well Caruso does not playing alongside LeBron and AD. But I know I've seen enough from him to know that he's very good. And we'll see. But we'll see. Now I did want to say, like, you Juha, you've been in there for a while. I wanted to hear from you. Did I pronounce your name even close to right?
It is pronounced Yuha. It's a silent J, but I do appreciate you going out of your way just to check in on me.
Hey, no worries. And I did say Yuha is the second version of what I thought was, how you say it. But great to have you on. What's happening?
Yeah, hey. So my question is just a quick question about DeAndre Ayton. Anytime that a team makes the finals, we always elevate whatever players that were on that team. Oh, I didn't consider them top 20, but now they're top 20 or whatever it ends up being. I'm curious, from what we've seen from DeAndre Ayton, have you changed your outlook on what you think his ceiling would be, or what do you think his ceiling is going to be like?
Oh, I've totally changed. Like from his rookie year till now, his defense is I want to interview him to find out what he did to improve so much, because it really is remarkable to me. He is like a defensive stopper now, like really good. And now on the other side, we always knew he was great offensively, or really, really good. Great touch, good form. So what I would anticipate is he's going to add a three-point shot to his game, probably in the corners where he can fly out to there or pick and pop and shoot a few threes. He can. His form looks great. So I think if he started doing that opens up some more things for him. And at that point, who knows? Can he start driving, and doing like the cat look or the Embiid thing? And if that's the case, then his ceiling is as high as it can be, right? It's an all-star and it's NBA champion, which might end up being this year anyway. I think Ayton has the world is his oyster. The only question is he really as young as he looks? Because to me, he looks like he's 30 and not whatever 20. What is he? 22? Did I lose everybody?
Nope.
Anyway.
Don't know how old he is.
He is 22. So it's like that's the only question is if he's really like 30, but I don't think he can be 30. He's probably 22. Then he's got a lot of development in front of him and improvement. So you're talking about within like by 4 years from now, if he better be shooting threes, he better be doing shot fake, and dribbles to the basket, alongside his really nice touch with the post, and all those things, and then continuing his defensive impact. That's all-star and that's top 10 probably.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time. I do appreciate that.
No problem, Yuha. Thanks for coming on. All right, what else do we want to talk about, guys?
Hey, coach.
Yes.
Well, as long as we're talking about players, sticking to the Suns, do you think Booker can become much better than he already is? And how do you see him compared to the rest of the league? Do you think he could be an MVP eventually?
I wasn't sold on Booker until this playoffs, and somewhere in the middle, I tweeted it out. I can't remember after which game. I was like, okay, I'm sold. This guy is a legit number one on a really good team. Part of my question was, his form looks really good, yet he was never a really good three-point shooter. The percentage was always kind of low, and it was weird because it just looked like he should be a 40% three-point shooter. But I think that what I've seen from him defensively and his engagement there has been terrific. And he's carried this team over enough games in the heart of the playoffs to me that indicates, yes, he deserves the accolades he gets, and he is that guy. Now, obviously, this is the cherry on top of the sundae. He's going to have to do it in the playoffs, now in the finals. Now, maybe he won't shoot a really high percentage, because, again, no one's ever played at this level, and none of these players have, so it's all new. But as long as if I see him assuming that role and being able to lead his team and make a couple of those clutch baskets when they need them, then yes, that's going to be the proof I need to say that this guy's legit. He's great. I don't know if he's going to get any better. I think this is it. But what this is really, really good.
All right, thanks, Coach.
You got it. Because I always want to see, because Booker is. He's 24. There is room as far as age goes for him to I guess keep improving. But he's also played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is his 6th year. So it's like, I don't know. To me, I know age is a factor, but it's also, to me, how many years you've been in the league. Once you get into the 7th, 8th year, I feel like that's when you're kind of like maximizing your skills. But what's up?
Hey, I have a friend that's been selling me on Devin Booker for like the past 2 years. He sends me clips all the time on Instagram.
Yeah.
And he also sent me clips of Zach LaVine.
Oh.
And I kind of started catering more to LaVine this year. But then, of course, with Booker making the playoffs, that's all he shows me now. But I still personally feel like Zach LaVine is still highly underrated, considering I feel like his skill set is very similar to what Devin Booker gives you.
Yeah. Well, here's the difference. Zach LaVine's year this year was better. Let me just see. Yeah, it was really much better, especially from an efficiency standpoint. Offensively. So what separates him now? Sorry, Scott Text is the defense. And I wouldn't have said that Booker was any better than LaVine, although LaVine is really right. He really struggles defensively a lot of the time. But after what I've seen in the playoffs, Booker really has been giving out and being effective on the defensive end. We've not really ever seen that from LaVine, and that's probably what's going to have to separate him. But that's a good call. Like, to try and pick between those two is really tough. I would probably go with LaVine offensively, and I'd have to say Booker has been better defensively. He's on a better team, so that makes a difference as well. So I don't know, man. That's a really, really tough call. That's really close. If you want to value offense more, then you got to choose LaVine. Hot take, I guess. I don't know. What else? What's happening? Gabriel, do you want to say something?
Well, looking at the future of this Phoenix Suns team, do you think they can continue to reach conference finals or even the NBA finals in the next years, considering, we don't have this kind of season we had where everybody got injured and so?
It's a good question. Obviously, the CP3 thing is an interesting thing to keep an eye on, because if he starts to decline, that's going to make it a lot harder for them to do that. And I don't know if Campaign can, be groomed to fit that role as a starter, and then they bring somebody else in, and then they continue to keep it going. Everyone else, though, is very young, and they can develop. And, guys like Mikal Bridges are going to get better, too. So I think that they're primed to be, in that mix, which is kind of weird, because now all of a sudden, the Utah Jazz where do they stand in that? They were supposed to be that team. And all of a sudden, are the Suns leapfrogging them or not? I think maybe they are. And so as a result, I'm really high on Phoenix, and I'm high on the Hawks. I think the Hawks are going to be terrific if they stay healthy. So, so I think that they can certainly keep it going. The question really is the Campaign taking over for CP3 eventually? I don't know how smooth that's going to be. If they can make that work, then they should be good for several years.
The Nuggets, too, will probably be up there in the Western Conference.
Yeah, they probably will. Yeah, I wonder if we're going to find out that losing Grant ended up being more painful than they thought it was going to be.
I'm hesitant to say Phoenix can be up there, because I can't see. I know LeBron's not getting any younger,
right?
But you still have AD, you still have Kawhi in the Clippers, you still have Jokic in the Nuggets, and you got Mitchell in Utah, Luka. The West is kind of stacked.
It is. It's always been stacked, and you're right. So it's probably going to come down to injuries again, which is what we found out. And that happens every year. But, man, I just want to make it clear, this year is different. as far as I'm concerned, the number of injuries this year is so much more profound than we've ever seen it before in the playoffs. I have to imagine someone's written an article about this. I haven't seen it, but right, someone's talked about this. There's got to be a stat out there that shows that we've had more injuries across the board to more starters than we've ever had before in the playoffs. And as a result, like that, and by the way, but that might end up being the make or break thing for all these teams going forward anyway, because everyone is so good that it's hard to overcome that now. The irony is that if you're a really good team, you should be able to overcome that and adjust and plug somebody else in, but it's when you have the other teams that good, there is no margin for error on these things. It's really, really tough. So I just hope that it's not. I hope that with another regular, an off season where they have a chance to recover. Now we have the freaking Olympics. We're finishing a month late anyway, so there's still going to be less time than a normal situation as long as they start normally, which I believe they're going to really try and do. So we're in for another year of this possibly, and that's just going to be a really frustrating thing. All right. Yeah, I can hear you. What's happening?
Okay. I have a question about. Do you think there should be an asterisk in for teams winning championship? Because the last few years, I think it was 2017 when Kawhi got injured and the Warriors won. Then the bubble. Then 2019, KD went out. I was just wondering if you think there should be one.
I've always said that every year, and everyone says this, there's always somebody gets injured and some team benefits from that. So that's not out of the ordinary. And so I really shouldn't be allowed to say, well, this year it's the same thing, right? And so there's no asterisk. It's the same as we've always seen. The reasonable answer, though, is it is different this year. Even though I know LeBron had both of those starters, Kyrie and Kyrie and Love out. And that was big, right? Maybe they do beat the Warriors if those guys were healthy that one year. So it exists. It's the excuse we give to everybody, or it's the fact of the matter every year. I don't know though. I just feel like this is just a very strange year. And the team that's going to win, the Suns, they're the ones who they were going to lose the first round. So it's crazy. It doesn't usually happen like that. Like a team that looks like they're on the verge of losing the first round suddenly gets it together and then they go and wins the entire thing. That never really happens. So this is definitely different, but equally difficult and equally merited. Whoever wins it, gets to deserve it. Now, the only problem we have is I wonder what the ratings are going to be like. This is two small market teams. The Bucks do have a pretty big presence online generally. The Suns, I don't feel like do. And then I don't know how that's going to translate to watching these games on TV. So we'll keep our eye on that. And maybe that doesn't really matter because as far as I could tell, we're going to get great games anyway. And that's the key, I think.
Yeah, I think people are just too focused on LeBron being out. And I still think the finals is going to be really good.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be an interesting chess match. I love what, the Suns have some really great offensive sets that they run. The Bucks do not. Generally, but the Suns really do. They're very clever, and so I've been grabbing things that catch my eye throughout the season, and most of them are the Suns these days when I'm looking through that list. So we shall see how the Bucks can adjust, but we know the Bucks are going to give up a lot of open threes. It's an interesting question. I'm looking this up. I want to know how well the Suns shot from three as a team. I'm just going to do the basic version of this in the regular season. Just a regular 3-point percentage. The Suns were 7th in the league. That's pretty good. So that's going to be a problem for the Bucks. So keep your eye on that too. Hey, Mark, I know you've been in there for a little while. I want to hear from everybody. So what's happening?
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering, looking at the Bucks throughout the playoffs, they've probably been, I saw it somewhere on YouTube, they're bipolar. They're probably one of the most inconsistent teams. What does this mean? Because now they got to the finals, which has taken them a couple of years. Even if regardless if they win or lose the finals, what does this mean for Coach Budenholzer?
I know. Isn't it amazing that he was about to be fired and then he could potentially win the NBA title? I mean, it's
very strange.
It's reminiscent of the guys, the coaches that win Coach of the Year and then they fire them, right? And that happened a whole bunch of times. Obviously, he's not getting fired now, right? They figure some things out. And by the way, the Suns were going to get, I know that CP3 had that injury, but he was back to 75, 80, 85% of his power by the time game 4 rolled around, and they were going to get beat before AD went down. The Bucks are the same way. They were down 2-0 with a healthy Kyrie on the Nets. As far as I could tell, there was no evidence that they were going to be able to win that series. None. And Kyrie goes down. Harden was already out. So that's the same kind of thing. They're benefiting the same way from a catastrophic injury. And you know that, but that's gonna, the narrative was enough. I think Bud is gonna keep his job. I mean, there's no other way around it. You can't. I mean, unless Giannis went to them and said, "Listen, I need a new coach because we, you know, whatever." But you know, that probably won't happen either. I can't picture Giannis doing that. So Bud Budenholzer is not going to lose his job, and it's one of those rare, weird things. Now, here's what could happen. Next year could get going again. They start, and let's say they win. You know, somehow without Giannis doesn't play. He comes back, and let's say that they're like mediocre, right? They're fourth in the conference. Wait, what were they this year? Were they third?
Third.
Yeah, which by the way is a little bit of a downer, right? That was another reason why they'd get rid of Budenholzer. Let's just say they're third again or fourth and struggling. It's not the same as it was. You know, can they then fire him then? Because all those issues are still there. Probably. So that's what I probably would look for. Now, if that's the case, then they're like, gosh, we should have just done it in the beginning of the year. We're going to have a clean slate now. Because, by the way, now we're behind the 8 ball to try and resurrect our season. It would be really difficult in the middle of the year with a new coach. So anyway, so that's what I wouldn't be surprised though if let's say they win it, they struggle again next year and are in the same spot, and then the same calls are for his job again.
Yeah, but it's a thing because this season, since they've gotten to the finals now, you can say overall it probably is a successful season. It makes it more difficult. While even the situation as far as the team play goes and the game plan, it's still the same issues are there, and defensively they're very stuck in their system of protecting the paint. The changes, I feel like this year they've made more adjustments in game than the previous years, but still in some games, like Game 4 against the Hawks, they just looked terrible, and Game 5 and 6, the feel of that game was just so much better.
Yeah, and by the way, in all fairness, when you lose Giannis, right, that was in the middle of the Game 4, right?
Yeah,
that was Game 4, right? Yeah, like, you know, all bets are off. You're not going to be able to handle that. You know, in-game adjustments aren't going to do anything. You need to have a practice or two, you know what I mean, and get over the initial shock. So I don't blame them, you know, for you know, crapping the bet on that one. But yeah, again, what you said is right. The adjustments they made and the way that Middleton and Drew Holiday come alive off of that is really impressive, because sometimes teams, no matter, even though they have that ability, they rely on a guy like Giannis so much that when he goes away, they just don't know how to run their offense. And you know what? They were able to do it. So, you know, and you know, this is a testament to how, you know, listen, Drew Holiday is a really good player. Middleton's a really good player, right? Again, like I said in the beginning of the show, there's no way they get there, even with Giannis healthy. If Middleton doesn't come through and play as well as he can, they don't get to this point at all. He is the key, which is the same with everybody. Michael had Scotty, you know, LeBron had Kyrie. It's like, you know, when LeBron came back from 1-3 down against the Warriors, Kyrie had almost every bit as good a game for those 3 games in a row than LeBron did. And guess who hits the shots and win the game? Kyrie does, not LeBron. So, you know, he got the block, but Kyrie had to hit the shot. So you always need that. And so it's not like a, you know, hot take, but it's like, you know, we need to make sure that Middleton's getting his due as a bona fide, legit. I think I had gotten the hot take and said he was a top 10 player. I didn't see the list because he's probably not a top 10 player, but you know, he's as good as, I would bet you he's as good as any of those guys that are in the top 15, or, you know, whoever's in front of him. You know, if they're in front of him, it's by a millimeter, fingernail.
Yeah, it's just a little bit streaky.
Yeah, he's a little bit streaky. Right.
Last game, 5 points in the first half, and then in the third quarter, he goes off for 23. So it's.
It is interesting, right?
It happens more often, yeah.
Yeah, and you can almost tell. It was weird. He made that first bucket, and on Twitter, I even called it. I'm like, he's gonna end the game by himself. Yeah, you can kind of tell, right? He's like, F it, I'm going to shoot a lot more. I'm going to be aggressive. And, you know, who knows what's going to happen? Well, when he's aggressive like that, and that's, you know, without Giannis there, then he becomes a lot better. And Drew Holiday as well. So it's funny how, you know, the Charles Barkley effect was, I think, is that what Bill Simmons called it? Where, no, maybe the Pat Ewing effect. But it was like when Barkley would go out and when he played for the Sixers, this is aging me and nobody remembers this. But when Barkley played in Philadelphia, they would, you know, throw down in the post. It was a very stagnant offense and it was effective. But when he'd go out, all those other guys, all of a sudden the offense opened up, and it was like they'd score easier, and it would almost look better. And there's
the same was what happened here.
Yeah, because remember, when they sag off of Giannis, it leads to like stagnant ISOs, and then they don't really run much offense as he's doing his dribble, and backing down, all that stuff. Aesthetically, it's more pleasing, and you can argue that the shots are better that way. So it's interesting. So we'll have to see. I would be shocked. First of all, I'm shocked that there was no structural damage anyway to Giannis.
Yeah, that was shocking.
And so as a result, I would like to say I'd be shocked that he plays at all in the finals, but because there was no structural damage, I can't go on the record and say, oh, he's not going to play in the finals. So, but I would have been yeah.
I think there were reports saying that he would have been back if this series against the Hawks would have gone to 7 games.
Maybe. We'll never know.
I thought it said it somewhere, so maybe he will be back. I just don't think they should rush him back.
Yeah.
Because it's probably likely to get injured, like an actual long-term injury.
I agree, especially if there's no structural damage, you could still have instability. And if you have instability and then you do something wrong, that's it. And like that's why, he really just shouldn't play, right? Like that's the answer. He just shouldn't play. But we had the Willis Reed game, and he might try and do that too. But I would hope that if it looked like there was some instability there, they would say shut it down immediately and kick him out. Literally kick him out of the arena. So there's no chance he's going to try and convince anyone to let him play. So we'll see.
Yeah, because otherwise you're going to get like the KD moment 2 years ago against the Raptors.
Right.
And then
Brutal. And obviously he had been dealing with a little bit of an injury too. Hard to know if it was related, but probably. And so, yeah. And then, by the way, another one of those things, another miracle where he comes back 100% from that injury is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's funny. We have a bit of a international feel to this, probably because it's 4th of July, and maybe everyone else is out there at the barbecues and stuff like that. But hopefully you guys all have a great 4th of July. Anybody doing anything fun today?
Nothing special.
Not really. Talking with you is pretty fun. One thing to say, going back to the TV and the ratings. I don't know if Jeff Van Gundy is calling the finals, but if he is, I think the ratings go down immediately. I think he is terrible.
Yeah.
He doesn't get, one thing I've been noticing is, how sometimes the replays can take a lot of time at the end of games, throughout the game too. He amplifies him and Mark Jackson, pretty much everyone other, than Marv and Reggie. They do a pretty good job, but he amplifies the amount of time for the viewers, it feels like, when they're having these replays, because he just complains the whole game. He doesn't enjoy the game. He just seems like he complains.
Yeah.
And it really, I mute the TV and I just watch.
Yeah. No, I know. And by the way, I might be doing some more hot mics, so you can listen to me on the hot mic do the play-by-play because of that. Yeah. He will be doing the games, and Mark Jackson will too. I mean, listen, if you're going to throw shade on Jeff, you're going to have to throw shade on Mark Jackson too, because I scratch my head a lot of what their analysis is. Obviously Jeff's trying to be funny with his complaining, like the Woody Allen style thing, but that's not funny really anymore. And it does end up like complaining, and he's not going to change because he's been doing it for so long. And that's why, fresh faces tend to be, good. By the way, this kind of leads us to the whole Rachel Nichols thing, which did you guys all see that report today?
No, what's up?
So Rachel Nichols got caught on a hot mic or a hot camera talking to somebody on the phone about how there's a woman who hosts, I don't watch these shows, but there's a woman who hosts NBA Countdown. I don't know who she is. And she was basically complaining that because the woman was black, she got that role over Rachel Nichols. And it was sort of a complaint in the sense that, I worked really, really hard. That was my thing. It was supposed to be my contract. And maybe it was it was like a diversity hire. I think maybe is what she was trying to cast that as. And it came out, and it was out in the somebody caught it on the ESPN side. Interestingly enough, it was a hot mic internally on ESPN, but somebody there apparently with their phone recorded it and then started disseminating it, that's interesting that somebody wanted to throw that in the fire. But Maria Taylor, okay, so I don't know who she is, but nonetheless, I don't know if she's any good. I guess it's not the point. The point is that it was said, and it was very hurtful. Maria Taylor doesn't seem to want to have any kind of thing to do with Rachel Nichols at all. And that becomes a little bit awkward because, you know, in the reporting I was reading, they'll go to Rachel Nichols for a report in the middle of the show. Apparently, those have all been pre-taped because they didn't want to have any interaction with each other. Maria didn't want to have any interaction with Rachel Nichols, and so it's an interesting situation. I don't know what to make of it. Anybody have any thoughts? I mean, I'm kind of going through the comments here on YouTube. Sounds like nobody on Locker Room wants to talk about it.
Well, I hadn't even heard anything about it, honestly.
Yeah.
I was thinking you was talking about the bald-headed lady. But that was a different NBA show. I don't even know which one that is.
Oh, I really have no idea about that one. But yeah, it's really, really too bad because I have no doubt that Rachel Nichols as a woman would, you know, completely would want to support Maria Taylor as a woman because it is so hard at the ESPN, you know, for all those years. It was terrible for women in that situation. By the way, I'm not even sure it's great there now anyway, right? Like the whole atmosphere you'll still see glimpses in these articles about how the atmosphere isn't great, the culture. But so I suppose there should have been some support like female to female. But obviously race becomes a really big problem here, and you know you cannot say that no matter what you think. You know to get caught on that is getting, you know, that's the problem, and that's where we are. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Maria if she is any good or not. You know, does anybody watch those shows anyway?
I personally, I don't. If it's an ESPN halftime show, I'm not watching it. If it's TNT inside the NBA, I'll watch it.
Right.
Yeah, I can't watch ESPN halftime. I like Jalen Rose, I like Jay Williams, but I don't know if it's just too many commercials or what. It's just like I don't feel like I'm really getting anything from watching their halftime show. When TNT, I'm getting real insight.
Yeah. Well, I will say this from a production standpoint, as far as like if you were running ESPN, you can't have a show where the host refuses to talk in live to the reporter in the middle of the show like that. That can't function properly that way. I don't know if people want to say that Rachel Nichols is a bad person, but she's not a bad person, right? I think everybody likes her. You know, she was the one the players really liked to talk to, and I can't believe that she would be a bad person per se, like with a history of terrible things. But I don't know why anyone would say that. I would be willing to say that she seems very nice. I don't know her, but nonetheless, Michelle Beadle was better. Which one was she?
That was the blonde hair woman.
Oh, blonde hair. Right. Yeah.
Paul Pierce? Yeah.
Oh, right. Right. Well, then then there's the whole Paul Pierce thing. So right, Paul Pierce gets thrown out because he thought he was talking live to a buddy on right. He thought it was a FaceTime call, and it was really on his Instagram. Is that the official line?
Oh, I didn't even know what the excuse was. I just thought he did it because he didn't care.
Oh, okay.
He had no excuse. He just owned up to it. Like he said,
wait, I thought it was because like he didn't want to resign with Disney and stuff.
So then why just don't resign? Like you don't have to broadcast you at some sort of whatever that was. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, someone mentioned Cassidy Hubbard. She is awesome, and it's the fact that she's not covering these games because I haven't seen her. Right? She hasn't done any sideline reporting. I don't think so. Right? The last one. What? Go ahead.
I was just chiming in. I miss Doris Burke.
And Doris too. Doris is great. Mark Jones, that pairing is awesome.
Isn't she commentating now?
Who? Doris?
Yeah.
Well, she was, but I think once they get to the conference finals, it's only Breen and Jackson and what's his face and Van Gundy. But Cassidy Hubbard, she did an interview with, I can't remember the coach now, whatever the last one she did. It was so good and so much better than anybody else's that she should just be doing those from now on. I don't know why anybody else gets a shot at those. In fact, the last few I thought have been really bad. They don't know what questions to ask. They're not like watching the game because, when you're like, listen, they should hire me. Like they should hire me to write the questions for them because there are very specific questions you can ask about what happened in the first half that are not negative that the coach would actually give you an interesting answer to. And instead it's like, how do you feel about the team in the first quarter? You know, it's like, that's not a question that you want to ask. And the coach is like, oh, we didn't play hard enough, or we're going to play a little harder, we got to tighten up. But whatever, they don't give you any answers. So, but Cassidy asked a couple of good questions that were very specific about whatever was going on in the game. That's what they need to do. It's kind of weird that they don't know better how to do those interviews. All right, we got a couple more people in the show who want to chop it up real quick, and then I'm going to wrap it up because I got to get going with my whole day with the July 4th stuff. So,
Who you got, Bucks or Suns? And how many games?
all right, well, in this show alone, I went from like somebody talked me into the Bucks, and then I went back to the Suns again. I'm going to go back to the Suns. My first instinct is the Suns. I feel like the way the Bucks are going to play defense is going to play into the Suns' hands, especially if Giannis is hurt. If Giannis is healthy, then that changes some things, but I still feel like the Bucks could beat them. I feel like they could throw Ayton on him and be very effective, and I think that the Suns are going to win. So there's my answer.
How many games? Can't give me the games?
All right, how many games? 7.
Suns in full.
I don't know, man. The number of games I'm just making up. I'm pulling something out of my head.
I don't blame you, man. It's hard to make.
I feel like the Suns are going to try and beat up Giannis because, one, he's coming off of an injury, and 2, he actually prioritizes his body like 100% of the time, you know?
Yeah. So that would mean to me that he's not going to play then if he really does, because you can't. I mean, and he shouldn't. Again, he really, really shouldn't. And I know that we have the culture of like, you know, if you can walk, you can play, but you know, although that culture may not exist anymore. I mean, look on YouTube, like you see this finger, this will never straighten again because I broke it and it was like, F it, I didn't even take care of it. I just kept playing and whatever. Oh, my wrist. I wonder if I had the X-ray. I snapped my wrist in half my senior year of high school, the very beginning of the year. I saved the ball and ran into a brick wall that was right on the sideline, one of those awful gyms. And I was not going to miss my senior year, and I just taped that up and played. And to this day, my wrist hurts. And I should never have done that. I should have gone to the doctor, gotten the X-ray then, gotten it taken care of, right? But that was what we had back then. It was like, you know, if you can walk and you can whatever, you play. And you know.
Did you win the game?
That's what I was just about to ask.
Shoot. You know what? We might not have won that game. It was against a really good team, and I remember I taped it up in that game and played. And I remember I had the ball up by my shoulders, and the guy stole it from me by hitting that wrist. It was probably should have been a foul, but it was close to my hand, and it hurt so much that the ball came right out of my hand, and then it went on to score. We might have lost that game also. And, you know, it was a really tough tournament in the beginning of the year. But I played the rest of the time. I ripped up my ankles as well. Those still hurt. That affected the way I move. So you might wonder why I rail against things like diving on the ball for loose balls, diving on the floor for loose balls, at least in the sense of doing those drills to do that. All those kind of things I feel like are not what the best players do, and so we shouldn't be teaching like the lesser players to overcome any of their inabilities by like diving and stuff. No, teach those lesser players to be more skilled, and then they'd be better. They don't have to like risk their lives, risk their bodies to overcome any skill deficits. So, anyhow, that's my little TED talk. Thanks for coming to that one. But anyway, last couple points in here. Anybody who hasn't spoken? I know Kunal hasn't spoken, and Jaden. Anybody else?
Yeah, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Do you think Kate Cunningham will transform the Pistons team?
I don't know, man. They still have the same coach. He's really good though, so he should definitely increase obviously the talent level, and that should increase wins. So if you're asking me that will they be better next year with him? Yes, they absolutely should be better with him. Now the real question is he ready to be that guy in the NBA? I kind of think so. The way he plays, and I'm impressed with him. I have to go on a deeper dive and really absorb it, but from what I have seen and his size, I do feel like he does have the ability to elevate a team and certainly make him better. And they also have the other rookie who I really like too. Oh my goodness, from last year.
Is it Sekou Doumbia?
No, not him. Who is it? Killian. Killian Hayes, yeah, for sure. Him. Am I feeling somebody else? Am I going crazy? No, Sadiq Bey. Sadiq Bey I was really, really high on coming out of last year's draft, and I think he did pretty nicely. I have to tell you, I didn't watch much Pistons this year. It was kind of ugly, right? But Sadiq Bey, that's what I was thinking of. 12 points a game and shot pretty well. So I think he's another guy who I really like. So you put him together with those guys, and they should be much better. Yeah. So I would look for an improvement. Certainly over the 20 wins, they'll be better than that.
And I also feel like if the Pistons just give Kate the keys to the city, let him like make mistakes, then they should have a bright future.
Well, yeah. Will Dwayne Casey do that?
No.
It's hard to know. I don't think he's done that in the past with like rookies like that. He's decidedly old school in a lot of those things. So you never know. But maybe he'll change.
If that gets in the way, maybe look for a new coach.
Oh yeah. Yeah, listen, here's the thing. As soon as you get hired, you know you're going to get fired, right? Like, that's not even a question. It's only a question of when, basically, right? Unless you are, I was going to say, unless you're Rick Carlisle, who I definitely think it was his choice to leave. So it wasn't like he got fired. But most of the time, it's like, yeah, you're going to get fired. It's only a question of when. So I think with the same thing with Dwayne Casey, I don't think he would argue that point either. It's happened to him, too, a couple of times. In fact, Dwayne Casey was a guy I believe, didn't he win Coach of the Year and get fired?
Yeah.
So he's one of those guys. Yeah. Don't be surprised if they bring somebody else in who's going to start to, develop these younger guys and do a better version of that. By the way, I having seen what Nick McMillan said about that and changed, I'm really, maybe Dwayne Casey has changed or can change as well. But before I heard that, a couple days ago, I was like, none of those 55 and older coaches or 50 and older coaches could do it, but you never know. All right, last one. Anyone want to say anything? Jaden, did you speak before? I don't know.
I don't really have nothing to say. I just...
Hey, Coach.
No worries. Yeah, Gabriel, what's up?
How's the new defense coming?
Good question. So if those of you who don't know, I've been trying to invent a new defense, a radical defense that could either get me laughed out of the gym if I try and demonstrate it, or everyone's going to be like, oh, my goodness, might revolutionize the way we play defense. I ran it a couple weeks ago with the high school team, and it went okay. There was something there, but I need pros. So in fact, while we were talking, I got a text from one of my buddies who's going to help me get some pros in the court, and he's like, it's not going to happen tomorrow. We're going to do it tomorrow, so it's going to be next week. So next week, I'm going to get on the court with a bunch of good pros, and I'm going to run it through. I've been developing. I've been talking to a ton of coaches. So it's going. I think I have something. And the cool thing is that the way I'm trying to defend the ball, which is really, really radical, it happens on almost every possession anyway in certain pieces. I'm just kind of getting to that part ahead of time and then getting people in the earlier positions to do that. But basically, it's like, imagine if you can run a defense where you can't set a ball screen and you don't give up threes. Okay? Now, that's the premise, and I'm getting closer to figuring out how that's going to work. So stay tuned for that. And I'm presenting at Coaching You Live in Vegas right before the Summer League starts. And I'm probably going to present some of it there. But I got to get it in order, and I have about a month to do that. So hopefully we'll see it by next week. So stay tuned. But so far, so good. I've been diagramming. I've been trying to figure out how to teach it properly. So when we get in the gym, we can just do it. So great question. Thanks for asking. And, stay tuned. I'm going to have some video footage, I think, after next week. All right.
Great. Can't wait to hear about it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up, guys, because it's time to get on with our days. It's July 4th. If you're celebrating, great. Let's celebrate the notion that our country can always improve and that we're looking for progress, which is why we have to study the past and know where we came from. So it's very important to know the true, honest history of our country. It reminds me of a great line in a movie called Dazed and Confused, which you all should watch. It's about the summer of 1976, and it's a great movie. And it's a little bit risque, I suppose, if your values are more conservative than mine. But there's a great line where the history teacher, as they're all getting out for the last class for the summer, says, "Don't forget, while you're out there celebrating the bicentennial, remember it's the 76, so the 200-year celebration for the United States." While you're celebrating the bicentennial, don't forget what we're really doing is the revolution was really about a bunch of rich white men who didn't want to pay taxes. So that's the true history of our country. I'll leave you with that. Thank you guys for all being here. I'll get a video out as soon as I can, hopefully maybe tomorrow about something. And stay tuned with me. We'll be doing live shows and live watch parties throughout the whole NBA Finals. And we'll be over here on the Green Room as well, so join there. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you guys in?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Coach Nick.
Awesome, thanks. All right, and now I have to, hey, bonus coverage over on YouTube. I got to go over here and quit this thing. And then one day I'm going to figure out, if there's an IT guy out there, email me at coachnick@bballbreakdown.com. Help me figure out how to get the audio from my phone into the computer so I get clean audio of the guests from Green Room and for you guys, and I don't have to sit here with breaking my arm holding it up by the mic. If someone can help me figure that out, I would be forever indebted to you. But it's a wormhole, and I've gone through it a bunch of times and haven't been able to figure it out. So anyway, thank you guys for being out there. Stay tuned for lots more coming up over here, and I will see you. Where am I? I'll see you. Tomorrow. Take care.